Yeah, it's week 6. I'm back here setting your DraftKings.com lineup, and looks like they want to make another millionaire this weekend, which is a ton of fun. Props to them. The big prize pools, it's always a blast. So I think I'll stick. I guess we could set a tournament line. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. Let's do it live. Figure out where we go. I think I'll gear towards a cash game lineup, but probably highlight some tournament plays in it. And as I usually say, don't throw this lineup out there. I really just want you to get my thought process when it comes to looking at the player pool and salaries and matchups and things like that as I'm going through and analyzing these guys. But why don't I don't know. What do you guys? Let's get rid of. I don't know. Let's get rid of our quarterback here. So I think that it's hard to fit in. That's not true. It's not hard to fit in Peyton Manning. It's hard to fit him in if you want to set your floor with a running back or a higher end wide receiver or something like that. Somebody that you really believe in as far as wide receiver is concerned. But Peyton Manning's definitely a guy to target. I really think that you should own him in your cash game lineups, or I think that you should own maybe a little Le'Veon Bell, or I think you should definitely consider Matt Forte in your cash game lineups. I think, though, for this lineup in particular, though, we're going to look at Jay Cutler, mainly because of the price, the salary break that we're getting. It's $1,400 difference, and Jay Cutler, he's got a pretty good team total, and I think he's going to see a fair amount of volume. But one of the things that I really like about Jay Cutler is that he's yet to record a game with fewer than 17 DraftKings points, and has 3 games at 23 points or higher. So we know that he's setting a floor. We're seeing a little bit of the consistent Jay Cutler that we're seeing a little bit more of the consistent side of Jay Cutler for our cash game lineups, and the matchup is more than ideal for him. Atlanta ranks almost dead last in rushing the passer. They've only generated 4 sacks, and they've allowed just under, or I think right at 260 yards per game for quarterbacks. The pass catching running back in Matt Forte, I think, gives him a slight edge that can be overlooked at times. And the Bears have a solid team total sitting at 25. So it's, I talk about the team total, and it's like, great, the Bears are sitting at 25 points. Well, Jay Cutler accounts for 71.5% of the team's market share in terms of TD production. So when you have a team total sitting at 25, and then you have a quarterback who's accounting for 71% of that team's touchdown production, I mean, it's just, it really sets our floor for us. And I really like Matt Ryan, but I'm slowly talking myself into more Jake Cutler. And it's honestly, the price break isn't huge at the quarterbacks. Like if we look at Matt Ryan, 86? Yeah. So it's $600, but that $600 can go a long way, especially when it comes down to our flex spot, or we look at our tight end spot later on. So we'll go with Jay Cutler here, and let's get rid of one of our running backs here, and that guy's going to be Andre Ellington. The price point is just, it's so good. I think we saw what he was capable of last week. Like, that's definitely his ceiling. If we look at his game log last week, we've got 33.4 fantasy points here on DraftKings. And one of those, the reason that he was able to hit that is he had a long, very long reception of 80 yards. I think it was 81. And that pass it literally split 2 defenders' hands. So it's not something to bank on, but even if you take that away, you take 80 yards, a touchdown and a catch away, that's 7 points, and then the 80 yards is 8 points. So you're looking at taking 15 points away from him. He's still at a 20 plus, game, and he just sets the floor, and he has the upside. He's got a very, very good burst. And I think a lot of people drafted him for that in seasonal long leagues, was just his upside and the workload. And the workload is something that I want to touch on as well. But we got to look at the matchup, and Cleveland is giving up an average of 24.5 fantasy points per game to opposing running backs. And PFF has I definitely just started thinking about Le'Veon Bell. So I'm going to go back to Andre Ellington here. And Andre Ellington, it's, like I just, he's got that burst that we were talking about. And I think Washington's run defense is starting to expose itself as a weakness. They grade out as a 25th worst run defense on Pro Football Focus. And I think like I touched on before with, the big seasonal appeal to him is that he's the featured back, and that's kind of hard to find, in this season, and kind of this age of running backs. But he's seen 62 attempts to Taylor's 3 attempts. So it's like you are getting a workhorse, and with Palmer looking more and more like he's not going to play, I don't know if he's been ruled out or not officially, but I don't think he's going to play. They're going to lean on the run, and they're going to see a little bit more volume for Andre Ellington. So I guess since I alluded to it before, we'll get rid of our second running back here, and it's Le'Veon Bell. He's at $7,200, and as I was saying, Cleveland is giving up an average of 24.5 fantasy points per game to opposing teams' running backs. PFF has him ranked as the 20th worst run defense. He offers a really big break in salary at $7,200 compared to, if we look at the other running backs, we've got Matt Forte, who's a fantastic play. Like if you can work him in and you can find a quarterback that you like, and you can find a slew of wide receivers, a handful of wide receivers that you like Matt Forte is the running back play this week. I've been liking my lineups more as cash game lineups without him, just because of that salary. So there's a big break in salary between him and Lynch, and then even Gio at $7,700. We're looking at Le'Veon Bell at $7,200. He offers a huge floor though, and honestly, he offers just as high of a ceiling as all the other running backs that I mentioned. He could easily be the player that I own the most on Sunday, and it's starting to turn out that way. I think what's great about Le'Veon is in a full PPR site like DraftKings, he's constantly setting his floor with receptions. So like if you go and you look at his receptions here, and the great thing about DraftKings, those who are new to DraftKings, you can click on the player and you can go to this game log, and you can see everything that he's done in 2014. So we look at these receptions. We've got 5, 6, 2, 5, and 6 dating back from week 5 to week 1. So that's 24 receptions. So he's averaging just under 5 receptions a game, somewhere around 4.5. I don't know math. So it's a really good floor in a PPR site, like a full PPR site like DraftKings. And 70, the price point. I think in baseball, Steven Davis had mentioned something along the lines of Davis Maddock at Davis Maddock on Twitter. Like Mike Trout had a pricing error, and like he got lit up for it. It's so funny because everybody likes to give Davis shit, but honestly, go follow him. He's so smart. Like I really enjoy reading the stuff that he puts out, and he's just got a ton of hot takes on Twitter. So I had said something the other day about like I'm really excited to see where he's at in the next 5 or 6 years as he continues to progress in this industry. But follow Davis on Twitter at Davis Maddock. It's DavisMattek. But he said that Trout had like a pricing error, and I honestly think this is a pricing error. It's $7,200 compared, or what's relative to the other running backs. This is something that needs to be taken advantage. Le'Veon Bell, $7,200. Like I'd almost consider working around him, even though it's not a high price point. But anyways, let's dive into some of these wide receivers that we've got to get rid of here. I think, no, I'm not going to give him out just yet because he's kind of my sexy play, the guy that I like the most. Sorry, my phone's going off. I think we'll go with Allen Robinson here first. Allen Robinson. And it's a really good matchup. It's a fantastic price point at $3,700. It's just a really good cheap option. I like them both in cash and in GPP formats. While Shorts and Lee have been sidelined, Robbins consumed just over 30% of his team's targets, and in that same span, he has seen 40% of the team's red zone targets. The Jags have given up 10 scores through the air so far, and PFF ranks their pass coverage as 3rd worst in the NFL. So I know it's hard to put a little trust into into the signal caller and Bortles, but I think what the inefficiency that Bortles has due to like being a rookie, he'll make up in volume. And with Allen Robinson seeing the majority of those targets and especially those red zone targets, it's at $3,700. I honestly think it's a safe play. It's a really good matchup against Tennessee as well. So. The other guy we'll go with is Julio Jones. This is kind of my lock. Super expensive, but I honestly think that it's the wide receiver that I personally am most comfortable paying up for this week. I know you could go with Demaryius. He's most certainly in the conversation as the wide receiver one this week, but I really like Julio. And, it's mostly because of the matchup. It's mostly because of the share of targets that he gets. But you've got Chicago allowing 6 passing TDs over the past 2 weeks and are giving up an average of 246 yards per game. So a lot of what I'm going to say for Julio kind of applies to Matt Ryan. Hold on, I'm thirsty. All right. By the way, I'm drinking a Dallas Blonde by Deep Ellum. Very, very good beer. You should check them out. They deliver to your local area. Anyways, so Julio Jones, he's leading the Falcons wide receivers, seeing 30% of the team's targets while averaging 6 receptions per game. As I had mentioned before, he is without a doubt the only wide receiver I feel good paying up for, as he's yet to record a game with under 80 yards or 6 receptions. He should square up with and have a distinct size advantage over cornerback Kyle Fuller, who stands at 5'11". Julio's sitting at 6'3", 220 pounds. And also, if you guys haven't checked out playerprofiler.com yet, do it. Follow at Roto_Underworld on Twitter. This site is fantastic. If you're ever in a tiebreaker, salary is the same, matchup is the same, you just can't figure out who to start, go to playerprofile.com and look at their comps and look at their workout measurables and look at some of the other outstanding statistics that they have, like red zone share, like hog share. There's so many good statistics to really give you good tiebreakers, and I use them anytime I start my analysis write-ups for our premium members. They're a tab open up on my computer. So playerprofile.com has Julio sporting an elite catch rate, which measures a player's ability to cover ground laterally as well as go airborne and reach and secure a ball in 3-dimensional space. That his catch radius sits at 10.35. And just to kind of give you guys some weight, if you don't go check out the website, you've got Des Bryant's catch radius, which sits at 10.05, and you have AJ Green's catch radius that sits at 10.18. So like I said, elite. They grade out, I think at 10.25 is considered phenomenal for a wide receiver. So for Julio Jones to be sitting at 10.35, I guess I'm just highlighting that he is a physical specimen. I'm trying to give weight to an analysis more than just, Julio's a beast. So sorry for rambling, but tell you what, let's get rid of some of the boring stuff. Let's get rid of our defense. And I keep targeting the Broncos mostly because of the over-under. They've got a really low total. I think the Jets team total is sitting at 19. So it's why can't I find them? They're like $3,100. Maybe I should spell their name right. Broncos, $3,100. The team total is sitting at 19, and they face they're going up against the Jets. It's Geno Smith. The guy throws like 3 picks a game, and I that's not even exaggerating. I honestly think he's averaging like 2.5 turnovers per game or like 2.89 turnovers per game. So it's a good price point. It gives us a little bit of working room to work in our tight end and these other 2 remaining positions that we have, our flex and our wide receiver. So it's just I think it's a really good bet. They're really good against the run too, and that's what the Jets lean on because of the inefficiencies of Geno and no Eric Decker in the red zone. So it's just a defense that I seem to be targeting, kind of like we targeted the Chargers last week, right? I think they were $3,000 and they were going up against the Jets, and they ended up putting up 16 points on DraftKings, if I remember correctly. So we got the Broncos here at $3,100 in our defensive spot. Let's get rid of our our last, excuse me, not our last. Let's get rid of our flex spot here. And for our flex spot, I think, oh man, let's see what could we do with our flex spot. Actually, let's get rid of our last wide receiver spot here because I know who I like for that, and it's Ruben Randall. Ruben Randall at $4,600. It's just a really good price point. I think a price point that you need to exploit. Like there's not a lot of that this week, which there was last week on DraftKings. So for Ruben Randall, he's seeing a ton of red zone targets, and it's 11 to be exact, which is leading the league. He gets a great matchup versus the Eagles, who have allowed 13 passing touchdowns, which also lead the league. So when you take the guy who's leading the league in red zone targets and you put him against a defense that is leading the league and giving up touchdowns at $4,600, it seems, I hate the word no-brainer. It's almost no-brainer-esque, but nothing is a no-brainer. So Ruben Randall at $4,600, just a price point that I'm really digging on, that I'm really liking to exploit. So I think for our tight end here, and this is where I'm going to spend a little bit of our money. We've got $4,950 remaining per player. We have just under $10,000 in total. And so for our tight end, I'm going to go. I just started typing in cash gameplay. I'm going to type it. That just solidifies who he is. I'm gonna plug in Rob Gronkowski here. Gronk is Gronk, and that is the hashtag analysis of Rob Gronkowski, right? It's honestly, you could pay up for Julius. Like, I'm not opposed to it. I just think it's really hard. You can see the players that we have. Pricing is a little bit tighter this week on DraftKings. They did a nice job. There are some things to exploit, but I think Gronk, like if I'm spending up at the position, it's gonna be Gronk. I've built like 7, maybe 8. I think 7 lineups. Two or 3 different cash lineups, and the remainers going to the Millionaire Makers tournament, and I'll probably end up with like 11 or 12 in the Millionaire Millionaire Maker, and then just my 2 cash game lineups are usually I solidify that down to 1 sometimes, but Gronk has been a staple in my cash game lineups. Like if that's what I'm spending on tight end, that's who I'm getting. He's seen limited snaps up until last Sunday night, but even then he still sees just about 30% of the team's red zone targets. And that's awesome. Like that is such a good number to hit. You have guys like Julio, you have guys like Dez, you have guys like honestly, I think Demaryius is at like 26% of the team's overall red zone target. So you see these super elite guys posting around the 28 to 32% red zone targets, and that's what you want. Rob Gronkowski he's such a good floor. He's scored 44 touchdowns over 55 career games. That's just under 1 touchdown per game. Tell me that there isn't a better cash play out there other than Rob Gronkowski at that price point. Find me a player at around $5,800 that you would rather play than Rob Gronkowski. I'm serious. Tweet it to me. Present me a good argument. Like this is something I'm going to regret this, but I'm dead set on Rob Gronkowski at $5,800. Okay, $4,100 to spend on our flex spot. So let's see what we have here. Let's scroll down and let's look at 4,100. Actually, you know what? I know who I like. Well, that's not true. I guess I like a couple guys. And I usually go with the running back at my flex spot in a cash game just because it's easier to predict. 8 times out of 10, they have a higher floor than wide receivers do. So honestly, like the guy that I think, Bishop Sankey at $3,500. It's a good matchup. Jacksonville is giving, I think they're like almost dead last in terms of rush defense, and Sankey with no Sean Green. Wow, that sounded like I said no Sean. With no Sean Green, Sankey's going to see the full workload, and I honestly, he has the measurables. He has the elite talent that we look for. So I think that it's somebody at $3,500 you can definitely plug in. If you don't go Sankey, if Reggie Bush ends up being out, you've got Bell here at $3,700. And that could be a fantastic play because he looks like he's good to go. I saw that Reggie Bush was questionable, which is honestly more than I expected him to be. I honestly thought he was going to be out. So you're going to want to monitor that situation. But you got Joique Bell at $3,700, and all of this is leaving you $400, $500, $600 left over in your cap space if you want to spend up more at tight end, which I don't think is possible. Oh no, and you've got Antonio Gates at $6,100. So I knew that Julius was more than Rob Gronkowski. I thought it was Julius and then Gronk, but you've got Antonio Gates sitting at $6,100. So you've got some room to work with here. Now, let's I'll tell you what. Let's break this down like I've done the past couple of weeks, and let's get rid of our quarterback. Let's get rid of Bell. Let's get rid of. We're keeping Le'Veon Bell. We're getting rid of Joique, and see, $12,100. Honestly, let's just leave it at that. And because one of the guys that I want to target is Matt Ryan at quarterback. So $8,600. And hey, that worked out. And we can go back to Sankey. So I literally just pulled two guys out of my lineup, and I went with Matt Ryan and Bishop Sankey, and I zeroed our lineup out. So really kept it very, very, my core really the same. Like Gronk is a cash game. Matt Ryan to the Julio Jones connection, a little boomer busty, right? Like, but I think it's all boom this weekend. It's something that I'd be willing to put some money on is the Matt Ryan to Julio Jones connection. So I think that's where we're at for this weekend. If you guys are premium subscribers, I definitely highlighted some more GPP plays in the cheat sheet as well as in the daily analysis that I wrote up, and I think I'll keep it at this for the DraftKings lineup this week. So take this for what it's worth and apply the guys that you like and the guys that you've been researching to it, and maybe unplug a couple guys. Hold on real quick. You want to see something? Never mind. Because, I'm over it. All right, so this is where I'm at, and let's enjoy Sunday. Kill a couple beers, make some nachos. Somebody's going to win another $1 million on Monday night. And honestly, last weekend was so perfect. It was so good. You had Al Smizzle going to Atlantis. You had 2 or 3 different industry guys and Sam winning the $1 million. You had Kevin coming up to second place. Like, it was just a bunch of guys. You had Eric E. Hafner sweating out. You had Cal Spears from Roto Grinders sweating out the 150K. Like, it was all industry guys who have been involved in this game for so long, and it truly speaks to the skill game aspect of this whole daily fantasy industry. So it was just really fun to see. I hope that we see that again this weekend. And with that, I think that I'm gonna peace out of here, enjoy another beer, and you guys have a good rest of your weekend, and good luck on Sunday.